So as you know, Teslas get into a lot of crashes. And the question is, will Tesla also crash the market? That's the subject of today's video. And we'll start with some headlines and talk about how this relates to the market as a whole. And you'll see how it all connects. This is the headline today. Tesla says the Cybertruck is, quote, best selling. So why is it offering discounts? And why does this represent the whole market is because if you have a lot of bubbles out there, Frost, House of Cards, you have the company saying one thing, oh my God, the truck is an absolute success. It's fantastic. We have all of the Tesla fanboys and fangirls saying, oh my God, Tesla, everyone wants a Cybertruck, right? But then you have a reality which doesn't quite match. Like the truck is, butt ugly, let's be honest. It's overpriced and they're not really selling that many. They had they claimed that they had 2 million pre-orders, and I think they've only sold like 40,000 of these things, right? So clearly the numbers aren't as great as they would have wanted them to be. And now they're trying to move these things off the lot by offering a discount. So certainly there's a problem there. And when the bubble gets to be too big, when you're boasting and you're basically lying and fraud, it gets to be too much, the markets start to realize it like, oh my God, this is a house of cards. Here's another example. Tesla offers Cybertruck discounts after shifting workers to Model Y. We've talked about this before. They shut down the line. I think it was like a week or so. I want to say it was November because we talked about it was a while ago already. And then now we're hearing that they're moving workers from Cybertruck to go make the Y. So they're producing less of these things. I mean, you can't overproduce a Cybertruck. It's a loss, right? And if you put too many of these out there and you can't sell them, then they're all sitting on the lots. And then you report, because you'll see reports on various cities around the world where there's all these, it's not just Cybertruck, all these Teslas sitting around because no one wants to buy them. And then the Tesla fanboys and fangirls get really, really mad. But that's essentially why, markets will ultimately catch up to reality. And if the reality is that this thing is all a bubble, it can crash very, very quickly. Now, Tesla and Cybertruck are the most hyped stuff out there, but it's more than just that. This relates to our markets as a whole. So yes, they're offering discounts. I just checked their website just before making this video. It looks like they're still trying to offer you, free supercharging if you buy the thing. They're trying to move them off the lot. They can't sell them, right? And I think it's a big deal too if they're moving workers around. So here's the discounts: $1,600 off a new Cybertruck, and then I guess if you buy a demo truck, it's $2,600 off. You got this also. There was a billionaire recently. This is a British dude, and he says, "I'm a billionaire and drive 90K Tesla, but I'm fuming after EV's catastrophic failure on day after warranty ran out. All of this really disgusted me and soured my experience of the brand." So here's the post. This is just 2 days ago from John Caldwell. So he's a billionaire. I think he's worth like 2 or 3 billion. And he says, "What kind of appalling customer service is this? My Tesla Model X broke down the day the 4-year warranty expired, or possibly just before." And then he goes on to write this really long post explaining all these problems he's had with Tesla. What it boils down to is Tesla cuts corners on their vehicles, and they also cut corners on their service, etc. And a lot of the stuff is based on hype. Before, if you wanted an electric car, that was the only game in town. But things are really, really changing as there's competition ramping up, and also to the appetite for cars, for these kind of cars, is going down. And it's not just Tesla, it's a lot of things in the market to where people, if the economy slows, you're less willing to just throw your money off, the latest and greatest that may not work. I want to read some comments in communities because you guys can see this stuff as well. This is coming in from a baby boomer critic, and they say, MAGA is an entertainment cult. Let that one sink in for a minute. MAGA's delusions are reality game show delusions. And that was a response to my last video when I was saying basically why people like an Elon or people who admire a Donald Trump, they're admiring people who are really good at managing their PR, right? They're good at managing their image. They're good at advertising. It's all entertainment, right? They're entertainers, and that's what they're good at. And a lot of people fall for that. And I thought it was a very astute comment, right? MAGA is an entertainment cult. Tavat says, the U.S. can't be considered a real country at this point. We need to fail hard for people to get it, unfortunately. And this is where there could be a crash this year in our markets, because again, our most hyped up products, our most hyped up stocks, be it your Teslas, etc., are clearly in a bubble. And now that Donald Trump's going to become president along with Elon Musk, we're going to see what happens. Mark Lee says, Donald Musk and Elon Trump has a good ring to it. Here's another comment, because I like to read your comments. Guys, I read all your comments. I just can't respond to every single one of them because there's a lot, but I do read them all. If you guys ever hang out in our community, you'll see we have a lot of people have a lot of interesting insight, and you get different points of view. This is coming from Dan Parrish. Dan says, "This is by far the strangest thing he's ever done, in my opinion." That's regarding Elon Musk and the whole lying about the video gaming stuff, which is so weird. Just see my last video. It's such a weird thing to worry about as Musk, but it shows you who he is. And Dan says also, he has nothing to gain from this. His investors would think he's a loser and unproductive if he spent all his time playing video games, and real gamers would know he's a fraud. What could he possibly gain for pretending to be the best video gamer? This is as ridiculous as Kim Jong-un saying he made 18 holes in one on the golf course. I replied, and then convincing everyone to vote for you that you did the 18 holes in one. Plus, Americans are foolish enough to believe it, right? So basically, like the Musk and the Trump put out a bunch of lies, and people do believe it, but how long? And markets will probably predict this stuff when they start to really see through it. And also, to be fair, Wall Street, they'll pump up lies as long as they think they can make money on it. But when the fraud no longer works, they start to like pull back. It's like, okay, time to get out. That's basically a pump and dump. So that's what we're seeing here. On top of that, and this is just another example, Elon Musk has this whole SpaceX thing. Now Jeff Bezos is starting to challenge him with that. They just launched, as Bezos launched a rocket. This is Blue Origin. I think they called this thing the New Glenn. And it shows like this is just how business works, right? Maybe, you're the first mover. Maybe you make money in the beginning, but then you got second, third, fourth movers, like other people coming in, and they can actually take advantages of you. Why? Because you made a bunch of mistakes early on, and then the second, third can come in and say, well, we can essentially omit all the mistakes that you did in the beginning, and we got kind of a leg up learning from your mistakes. So we'll see if Blue Origin really challenges SpaceX there. Or another example, this was a headline today, it's a big one. Apple has worst day since August, following reports of China AI struggles. Basically, Apple's losing market share in China. This is something that we've been talking about for a long time, the last year or so. Remember, Warren Buffett, I think he sold like half his holdings of Apple stock. It's a similar thing to Tesla. There's competition coming. Apple's not the only game in town. Apple comes in more expensive, right, than other phones. You guys own this. We all know this. The other thing is the Chinese manufacturers make pretty good phones these days, and they come in a lot cheaper. If you still want a premium phone that don't want Apple, the Korean phones come in really good as well. This would be like your Samsung. And there's a bunch of other brands, right? Not just Korean, not just Chinese. There's other brands out there. Point being, though, Apple's not the only game in town anymore. The same way that, say, Tesla's not the only game in town. And so this is where many stocks will struggle if the companies can't produce the numbers that they once did. If you're not the only game in town and there's competition out there that comes in relatively the same quality, comes in at cheaper, it's very tough, right? You guys can see this. And on top of that, you got the Trump tariffs and the maybe possible trade wars and corruption. It could get really ugly this year as the house of cards starts to fall. Now, Apple does make money. I want to make this clear. Apple does make money, but we have high valuations, meaning we may be valuing it higher than what it actually performs. That's when we watch earning reports together. There is corruption still in the markets, though, and we're going to watch this as well. So here's an example. This is the TikTok CEO. I guess he's going to go to the Trump inauguration. I think this is the USA TikTok CEO, though, because I think there are different branches. And the question's been, are we going to ban TikTok and knock out the USA? I don't know what we're going to do. There was rumor out there that Elon Musk might buy TikTok, so there could be some corruption there. There's a rumor that maybe Donald Trump will do an executive order to delay the ban for another 90 days or whatever, but probably what Trump is doing, he's trying to figure out like how can he and his family profit off of TikTok, I'm sure. And TikTok has a lot of influence, so there's certainly some power there. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to ban it or not. I just know Trump's in power, and the TikTok CEO is going to go to the inauguration and probably try to bribe Trump, every way from Sunday, that kind of thing. But understand that this is about influence. This is about data. And, to give you an idea of like how important this stuff is, how important that we need, government protections. This was the interesting report that just came out just minutes ago. FTC takes action. That's FTC's Lena Khan, right? FTC takes action against General Motors for sharing drivers' precise location and driving behavior data without consent. So this is like a 5-year ban on GM and OnStar. I don't have the OnStar thing. I know a lot of people do. If you guys do, you can let me know. But it says, I guess they're sharing your location and you didn't give permission for that. That's going to be an interesting stuff going forward of like how many companies out there are recording you, taking your data, these kind of things, and sending it off to whatever places. And that's what the TikTok stuff's all about as well. is the Chinese government, are they accessing, kids' data, your data, et cetera, and doing whatever they want with it? Are they boosting whatever post that they want to promote, et cetera? So data is a really big thing. And so is, if you guys watch my channel, I believe in government protections. Like, you should know what companies are saying to you, doing to you, et cetera. And I don't think that's the crazy stuff to say. Here's another example. And again, I'm all for protections. American Express to pay $230 million in fines for aggressive sales practices. So I guess they were abusing small businesses, trying to get you to get lines of credit cards, et cetera. But this is the kind of stuff, it's not just American Express, it's be practices that Tesla does, or what's going on with OpenAI. That's why we track all these things in the markets. It's all related. Now, talking about the housing, which is also related to Tesla, is remember, in order for people to buy your cars or buy your houses or whatever you're going to buy, people generally get loans, right? And this is sort of where you track the rates of loans, because if the cost of borrowing is higher, then that means people are less apt to buy things, right? It's harder to get money. Or if credit markets freeze up, it's not just interest rates alone. It's just like no one will give you a loan to buy said things. So we track this stuff because they're all connected to our markets. Mortgage rates top 7% for the first time since mid-2024. There's concerns that Trump will go into heavier deficit spending. It's not just Trump in the U.S. It's many countries around the world. Basically, we're in this just massive bubble. Our modern economies are based on debt upon debt. We use, leverage assets, leverage it a couple times. That's what the Trumps and the Musks do. They borrow against whatever assets that are leveraged, or borrow against assets that are overly pumped, right? And it's all a house of cards. And the question is going to be like when or if it'll crash this year. I'm more of in the when camp. A simple thing is like, you'll know in your neck of the woods, if you feel like houses are all too much money, you'll know. If you feel like cars are all too much money. I feel like I'm here in Korea, and we talk about this all the time, is like, look at the price of some of this stuff, right? You're like, oh my God, everything's like $1 million, right? Seriously. And it just seems like everything is too expensive. And it depends on the market you're in. If you're in LA, it's the same thing. It's like, oh my God, everything's like $1 million. And that's on the lower end, which I'll show you guys kind of the stuff that we're looking at. But first, regarding the 7% mortgage, that's kind of historically average. It's not crazy high. It's just people are so used to lower mortgages. And it was just a few years ago, you could get something like at 2%, right? For refinancing or whatever. I guess the market is slowed though from last year. Like, was it refinances and getting homes is down like by 20%, something like that. But basically, yes, historically, we're kind of in the average, 6 to 7%. Could mortgages come down? Maybe, but maybe not that much. Again, we're worrying about all the Trump's inflationary activity and deficit spending. On top of that, which is actually really interesting, and I don't want to make any light of the tragedy in LA fires. I want to make that really clear. A lot of people lost their homes. There's a lot of people really struggling out there, and things are going to get even tougher for people at the bottom. Why? Because a lot of these people at the top of the economic scale who were in really, really nice homes in the Palisades, and I've been there. I used to live in LA, and I told you guys before, I went to a party in the Palisades. I mean, someone had like this crazy nice house, and you'll know when you see it. It's like movie house basically. But they don't have a place to live, so they're actually hitting the rental market, and they're driving the price of rents up like considerably. So it's like crazy numbers. I'll show you guys a bit here. So like, if you wanted a place that was 8,900, say last year or whatever, now it's offered at 18,500. That's a month. This would be a 4-bedroom, I guess. Or if you're in Studio City, if you guys know these areas, 10,000 a month before. Now it's like 16,000 a month. Basically, the rents are going up. The question is this legal or not? Because I guess they have rules in LA. You can only raise the rents like say 10% a year or something like that. But there could be price gouging. To give you an idea, the kind of homes these people are in. So this was on Zillow. One of these homes would be like 6,000 to 7,000. The one I went to the party at, I think it was probably more in the $20 million range, because it was definitely nicer and bigger than this one. And yes, guys, this is really expensive. Just make no bones about it. And they were talking about these crazy numbers, because like like when you see these numbers, it's like dang, there's a lot. It doesn't matter how much money you have, this is a lot of money. 44,000 a month to rent some of these things. I guess that's down from 49,000 a month. It's crazy. So anyway, so the rental market is kind of insane right now, and it's bleeding into everything else. On top of that, who do we have to solve our crazy inflation problems? Well, you got Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who are born rich, don't care about you nor understand your lives. And Trump's solution to, say, getting you jobs in Hollywood. And if you guys don't know, this is actually a really serious thing. the Hollywood situation, because a lot of jobs have been shipped to Canada, they've been shipped overseas, be it production jobs, be it CG jobs, editing jobs, post-production, these kind of things. For those of you who work in the industry, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I guess according to Trump, the solution is get a bunch of old white guys. I mean, they know best. So that's going to be Mel Gibson, John Voight, and Sylvester Stallone will be the special ambassadors to Hollywood. And the headline was like, whatever that means. But we have this old problem. We have this old dude problem here. If you want to call it old Korean guys, it's fine. But basically the Trumps, and this is a case of President Yoon here in Korea, they're basically, they're just a bunch of gangsters. That's the best way to put it. And gangsters are ruthless. You shouldn't worship gangsters, but some people do, because some people get caught up in the money and the reality TV shows, these kind of things. But in Yoon's case, he was involved with a cult, like actual like shaman religious cult kind of thing. It's crazy. We just arrested the dude. We'll see what happens. It's something that we've been tracking here in Korea, because sometimes people ask me about this kind of stuff. So corruption does exist everywhere. It's not just USA. But I want you guys, and I mentioned this several times on the channel, if you haven't seen this movie 1987, please do. It just kind of shows how corruption, the role of the media, why people would want to stand up for democracy, why it's important. Or see this latest movie, The Apprentice, the Elon Musk, the Donald Trump one. Elon Musk is not in this one, but the early years of Donald Trump. Or if you want to understand our problem with American workers and like the problems they face, it's called American Factory. Very, very well done, because it illustrates sort of the issue that a lot of people face, and sort of, if you understand it, the solutions that the Trumps and the Musk offer is just completely not realistic. It's just a fantasy, and that's sort of why the problems that we have today. So you can be successful out there. I just try to show you guys everything that's going on in the markets. I think we're due for a downturn just because there's so much froth and bubbles out there. And then you have all these warning signs with Trump policies being so inflationary, be it with your tariffs or his crazy talk of, acquiring, I guess we're trying to get Greenland or whatever, maybe Canada. Who knows what this guy's up to? But we'll keep track of it all together. And I think the Tesla Cybertruck being the sort of this big bubble in the market is sort of the central to understanding all of it. So thanks again for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you on the next video.